Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Newshour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, the Kremlin says a Putin-Trump summit is possible this month. Trump accuses Ukraine of starting the conflict. Zelensky says attempts to replace him will fail, adds that a majority of Ukrainians would not support concessions to Russia. The BJP picks Rekha Gupta for Chief Minister of Delhi to be sworn in on Thursday. And in cricket, India to begin its Champions Trophy campaign by taking on Bangladesh in Dubai on Thursday. Delhi's wait for its new chief minister ended on Wednesday night with the BJP naming Rekha Gupta for the top post. Rekha Gupta, who will be Delhi's fourth woman chief minister, will take the oath on Thursday at the historic Ram Leela grounds. Rekha Gupta won the Shalimar Bagh seat against AAP's Bandana Kumari and Congress's Parveen Kumar Jain. She began her political career with the ABVP student wing in the late 1990s. She also served as the president of the Delhi University Students' Union. Gupta has held key positions in the Bharatiya Janata Yuva Morcha as well, serving as the Delhi Unit Secretary and later as the National Secretary as well. The official announcement was made at the BJP Legislature Party meeting in Delhi on Wednesday, setting the stage for a new leadership. The BJP had swept the February 5 Assembly election, winning 48 out of the 70 seats and ousting the Aam Aadmi Party. Many ministers and chief ministers have congratulated Rekha Gupta on becoming the Delhi chief minister. Right, joining me is my colleague Dibyendu Mondal for more on the latest. Dibyendu, tell us more about Rekha Gupta, the new Delhi chief minister designate. Dibyendu, can you hear me?
Well, Ramesh, before I get into the details of Rekha Gupta and how she rose in the ranks within the BJP, of course, it was at the legislative. Yes, Ramesh, you are audible.
Do continue, Dibyendu.
So Rekha Gupta was basically elected by the BJP's legislative party meeting, which was held at the BJP Delhi BJP office here in Delhi, where the 48 MLAs, elected MLAs of the BJP was present here, along with the two observers that was appointed here by the central leadership of the BJP. So, of course, Rekha Gupta's name was propped up by, proposed by Pravesh Verma, who is also an elected MLA of the BJP, and of course he was being considered also as being one of the front runners of the CM post. So he proposed the name of Rekha Gupta, after which the name was put to vote, and all the elected member of the Legislative Assembly of Delhi of the BJP consented to her name, and that is how she was elected as the CM designate now, of course, of the BJP. And of course, this is the fourth CM that, fourth woman CM that Delhi is going to have, and of course the first one being that of the BJP's Sushma Swaraj, and then Sheila Dikshit, and then Atishi, and now with the new CM of the BJP after 27 long years, it is Rekha Gupta who has rose from the ranks within the BJP She was associated with the RSS in the early days. She was also associated with student politics in the Delhi University where she studied. She also was elected as the DUSU president in 1990, if I'm not wrong. Ever since then, she continued her works within the BJP, and then she has now been elected as the chief minister of the BJP of Delhi. Ramesh.
Dibyendu, as we show the visuals of celebrations breaking out in Delhi upon her being named as the new chief minister, what can you tell us about the oath ceremony planned for tomorrow, we are told?
Well, Ramesh, the oath-taking ceremony will take place at about 12 p.m. tomorrow, and all the senior leaders of the BJP, including that of the Prime Minister, the Home Minister, the BJP National President, along with the Union Cabinet. In fact, some of the Union Cabinet ministers are also likely to attend. The oath-taking ceremony will also be attended by all the chief ministers of the NDA states, which is almost about 21 of them are expected to be in Delhi tomorrow for this special oath-taking ceremony that is going to take place at the Ramlila ground in the central Delhi district of Delhi. And of course, the time that has been fixed for the oath-taking ceremony is 12:35 p.m. sharp. BJP take into astrological considerations in place when these auspicious oath-taking ceremony will take place. So of course 12:35 p.m. at the Ramlila, at the historic Ramlila Maidan, the Delhi's Chief Minister designate Rekha Gupta along with her Council of Ministers will be taking the oath tomorrow. And of course the BJP workers are jubilant and excited because they are going to have their CM in place after 27 long years. Of course, all focus now shifts to Ramlila Maidan tomorrow, where this historic event of the oath-taking ceremony of the Delhi Chief Minister, now designate Rekha Gupta, will take place.
All right, we leave it there. Dibyendu, thank you for your inputs. Dibyendu reporting there on the announcement of Rekha Gupta's name for Delhi Chief Minister. It's also reporting on the oath ceremony that is planned for tomorrow noon at the Ram Leela ground in the city. Right, shifting focus to some other news we are tracking here on DD India Newshour. US and Russia have agreed to restore embassy staffing after the meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and his Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. Trump has indicated that he could meet Putin later this month. Trump blamed Ukraine for its conflict with Russia, saying that Zelensky should never have started it. For its part, France has planned to host a new meeting on Ukraine in a bid to coordinate a European response to the US-Russia talks, even as the EU keeps up pressure on Russia with a new tranche of sanctions.
The US and Russia have agreed to restore the normal functioning of each other's diplomatic missions. This was one of the outcomes of the talks between US and Russian officials in Saudi Arabia on Tuesday. The Riyadh talks were aimed as a step towards ending the Ukraine-Russia conflict after US President Donald Trump, who took office last month, ordered top officials to begin negotiations.
First step of a long and difficult journey, but an important one. And President Trump is committed to bringing an end to this conflict, and as he said when he campaigned for president. And he wants it to end in a way that's fair. He wants it to end in a way that's sustainable and enduring, not that leads to another conflict in 2 to 3 years. That's not going to be easy to achieve, but he's the only one in the world that can begin that process. Donald Trump is the only leader in the world that could initiate that process.
Trump's envoy, Keith Kellogg, reached Kyiv on Wednesday for discussions with Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, who postponed a visit to Saudi Arabia that was planned for Wednesday to avoid giving legitimacy to the US-Russia talks held in Riyadh. Meanwhile, Trump has said that he may meet Putin this month.
President, before the end of the month.
Trump brushed aside Ukraine's concerns about being left out of the meeting, saying that Kyiv could have made a deal with Russia 3 years ago to avert the invasion by Moscow.
And I'm very disappointed. I hear that, they're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years, and a long time before that. This could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this years ago without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their side.
With US and Russia moving forward, France is hosting a second meeting to discuss Ukraine and European security on Wednesday, but has this time invited European countries who were not present earlier this week, besides NATO ally Canada. These talks are part of efforts to assess how potential security guarantees for Ukraine could look, how Europe should move faster to increase defense spending, and how to move more quickly as the US government speeds up diplomacy to end the 3-year war between Ukraine and Russia. Even as the US pushes for peace talks with Russia, the EU on Wednesday agreed on a 16th package of sanctions against Moscow. This includes a ban on primary aluminium imports, sale of gaming consoles, and the listing of 73 Shadow Fleet vessels. Bureau Report, DD India.
The consistency of the US stance on the Ukraine conflict, calling President Donald Trump's criticism of Ukraine's leader Volodymyr Zelensky as incomprehensible.
The President of the Republic addressed the US position through various and often incomprehensible statements made by President Trump. President Trump makes declarations every day, all of them extremely assertive, without consulting European countries, neither France nor other European nations. And we are left trying to find consistency over time. Yesterday's discussions and statements made by Mr. Trump follow this pattern. We do not fully understand the American logic.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed the claims about his approval ratings being at 4% as Russian disinformation. He said attempts to replace him would not work. Zelensky told journalists during a press briefing in Kiev on Wednesday that Trump was helping Putin come out of isolation.
If someone wants to replace me right now, I would say it won't happen right now. As we are talking about 4%, we have seen this disinformation. We understand it's coming from Russia. We understand that, and we have proof that these numbers are being discussed between America and Russia. So, unfortunately, President Trump, who we respect a lot as a leader of the nation, and we really respect the American nation, who supported us all the time. Unfortunately, he lives in this disinformation space.
And talking about popularity, a Reuters Ipsos poll found that Trump's approval rating has ticked slightly lower in recent days as more Americans worried about the direction of the U.S. economy as the new leader threatens a host of countries with tariffs. The 6-day poll, which closed on Tuesday, showed 44% of respondents approved of the job Trump is doing as president, down from 45% in a Reuters Ipsos poll conducted between 24th and 26th of January. Trump's approval rating stood at 47% in a poll conducted on 20th and 21st January in the hours after the Republicans returned to the White House. The share of Americans who disapprove of his presidency has risen more substantially to 51% in the latest poll, compared with 41% right after he took office. Meanwhile, Trump has said that he intends to impose auto tariffs in the neighborhood of 25% and similar duties on semiconductors and pharmaceutical imports, the latest in a series of measures threatening to upend international trade. On Friday, Trump said that the levies on automobiles would come as soon as 2nd of April, the day after members of his cabinet are due to deliver reports to him, outlining options for a range of import duties as he seeks to reshape global trade. Trump has long railed against what he calls the unfair treatment of U.S. automotive exports in foreign markets. The U.S., though, collects a 25% tariff on pickup trucks from countries other than Mexico and Canada, a tax that makes the vehicles highly profitable for Detroit automakers. Trump also said that sectoral tariffs on pharmaceuticals and semiconductor chips would also start at 25% or higher, rising substantially over the course of 1 year. Still to come on DD India Newshour. A look at the issues that are dominating the election campaign in Germany. South Africa to host G20 foreign ministers on Thursday. And Pope Francis is hospitalized with double pneumonia. You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Diplomatic efforts for resolving the Israel-Hamas conflict are gaining momentum as Arab nations push back against Donald Trump's Gaza plan. In Abu Dhabi, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan rejected any plans to displace the Palestinians, calling for reconstruction efforts to be tied to a two-state solution. Meanwhile, Hamas has signaled its readiness to release all the remaining hostages in a single swap as part of the second phase of the Gaza truce.
As Israel plans to begin negotiations on the next phase of the Gaza ceasefire this week, a senior Hamas official has said that the group is willing to free all remaining hostages at once during the next phase of the Gaza truce instead of a staggered release. As part of ongoing negotiations, Hamas is set to release the bodies of 4 hostages on Thursday, while another 6 hostages still alive will be freed on Saturday. Meanwhile, UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has strongly opposed any plan to forcibly displace Palestinians from Gaza. In his meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Abu Dhabi on Wednesday, Nahyan stressed that Gaza's reconstruction must be tied to a lasting peace process based on a two-state solution. His remarks came after Donald Trump proposed a U.S.-led administration in Gaza, with Palestinians resettled in Jordan and Egypt, a plan widely rejected by Arab and Western nations. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has supported the idea, saying Gazans should have the option to leave the enclave if they choose. Meanwhile, Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, speaking in Madrid, urged the international community to support Gaza's reconstruction without displacing its residents.
We confirm the importance of the international community's support and their adoption of the plan for the reconstruction of Gaza without the displacement of the Palestinian people. I repeat, without the displacement of the Palestinian people from their land and their homeland, which they do not accept to be given up, and which guarantees the immediate start of relief and recovery operations.
Qatar, which plays the role of mediator between Israel and Hamas, affirmed that the future of the Gaza Strip is a Palestinian issue.
From our perspective, this is a Palestinian question on what happens in the sector post this conflict. It's a Palestinian question on who represents the Palestinians and who represent them, in official capacity and administrative capacity, but also the political groups and the political parties that are in their political sphere, and it is not a question for us or anybody else to answer.
Arab nations are working on an alternative peace roadmap, with Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE and Qatar set to meet in Riyadh this month. The plan is expected to be presented at an Arab League summit in Cairo in March. As Gaza remains in ruins after 15 months of conflict, a joint UN, EU and World Bank assessment estimates that over $50 billion will be needed for its reconstruction. With hostage talks, ceasefire negotiations and diplomatic efforts intensifying, the future of Gaza remains at the center of global focus. Bureau Report, DD India.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has said that the leaders of Russia and China will visit each other's countries to mark the events commemorating the end of the Second World War. Putin and Xi have deepened their alliance during Russia's offensive on Ukraine, with the two men seeking to align their positions and often referring to each other as a dear friend. Lavrov said she has timed his next visit to Moscow to coincide with events marking the victory in the Great Patriotic War on 9th May. Putin will also visit China at the end of August and the beginning of September in conjunction with the 80th anniversary of the victory over Japanese militarism at the end of the World War II. Besides Xi, Putin has invited Trump to the 9th May parade in Moscow. Germany's voters will choose their next government on 23rd February. Issues such as immigration and economic revival are at the front and center of the election campaign.
Germany heads to snap national elections on Feb 23rd following the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-way coalition. But what are the key issues and how are people reacting? The Russia-Ukraine conflict is on the agenda of Germany's election. The mainstream parties are all in favor of helping Ukraine fend off Russia's attack, while the AfD and PSW want an end to weapons delivery to Kyiv and a resumption of good relations with Moscow.
I think one of the things that moves people in Germany most might be the topic of migration, because not necessarily on their own accounts, but because it's a topic that has been raised by all of the major parties and thus has set a movement into place with the people as well. It is a topic that is very important for every one of us, but the way that it's discussed, it's not often the optimal way.
Many migrants have expressed a desire to integrate and contribute to society.
Germany helps the Ukrainians a lot, but the Ukrainians have to help Germany too. One simply can't always live at the expense of the state that feeds you for years. People have to start work and make their contribution.
Economy is another key issue in Germany. In Gelsenkirchen, the signs of a downturn are visibly everywhere. While the city played a big part in Germany's post-war economic miracle, the rot set in with the decline of coal and heavy industry in the 1960s. The population tumbled from 390,000 then to just 260,000 now, as the local economy cratered. Now the German voters here demand change as Europe's biggest economy stalls.
I just believe that our last government did a lot of things wrong, starting with the industry and energy policies and many other factors. That's why I'm almost certain that no matter what the new government will do, it will be possible to get out of this hole and that we will manage to create jobs again and to adequately address energy policy issues which people can actually afford.
High energy prices remain a formidable challenge for households and businesses in Germany.
We need to discuss the further transformation of our energy system while respecting companies' different need and their energy requirement. Here the state must put the relevant infrastructure at the forefront.
Every candidate who wins one of Germany's 299 constituencies is guaranteed a seat. To fill the other half of the 598 seats in Germany's Bundestag, voters cast their votes in the second vote, or Zweitstimme. This vote goes to a political party instead of a single candidate. Bureau Report, DD India.
Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni visited Pope Francis in hospital, where he's being treated for double pneumonia. After a visit, Meloni responded that Pope was alert and responsive. As per a Vatican source, Pope Francis was breathing on his own despite his pneumonia, amid growing concerns over the hospitalized 88-year-old's condition. The pontiff was admitted to a Rome hospital with bronchitis last week after suffering breathing difficulty. School children on Wednesday paid a visit to Rome's Gemelli Hospital to pray for Pope Francis as he spent his 6th day in hospital for treatment. Well-wishers have started to flock to the hospital to pay their tributes. A historic moment for South Africa as it takes over the G20 presidency, a platform that represents 85% of global GDP and 2/3 of the world's population. But with the US absent, citing concerns over South Africa's like expropriation of private property. The road ahead is anything but smooth. Tripti Tripathi reports.
We have a responsibility to do better. It is with this hope that I pass the mallet of the presidency of the G20 to President Ramaphosa.
Thank you.
South Africa's G20 presidency was expected to bring a renewed focus on the challenges faced by poorer nations. But with Washington choosing to skip the summit, citing policy concerns, political experts believe this could undermine South Africa's leadership.
The Trump administration are doing is to throw South Africa's presidency of the G20 into a tailspin. They also may want to get American companies and American investors to boycott this conference.
Despite the challenges, South Africa is moving forward, focusing on solidarity, equality, and sustainability. As the first foreign ministers' meeting approaches, leaders will discuss ways to bridge inequalities. External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar will represent India at this summit. The key priorities for South Africa's G20 agenda includes strengthening disaster resilience, scaling up post-disaster reconstruction, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, expanding debt relief measures, mobilizing finance for energy transition, securing climate finance agreements, and harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth. President Cyril Ramaphosa remains committed to making development finance accessible, adapting to climate change, and amplifying the voice of the Global South in the world's most influential economic forum. With global economies facing multiple crises, South Africa's leadership will be tested. But the success of its G20 presidency could reshape global financial priorities for developing nations. Tripti Tripathi reporting for DD India.
The International Atomic Energy Agency's chief visited the Fukushima plant in Japan on Wednesday, the day after Tokyo approved an energy plan that marks a return to nuclear power. The IAEA is monitoring Japan's efforts to decommission the Fukushima plant after a 2011 earthquake-triggered tsunami that killed 18,000 people and set off the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. Speaking to media persons, Grossi said the timeline for disposal of contaminated Fukushima soil by 2045 is not unrealistic.
The interim soil facility and also the demonstration site for the recycled soil demonstration site. In terms of the timing, which has been, of course, set by law for 2045, we believe that it is not unrealistic. It can be done. It will require, of course, consistency of budgetary commitment by the government.
Bangladesh Nationalist Party's Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir has raised concerns over the interim government's commitment to holding national elections without delay. Speaking in Dhaka, he warned that public doubts are growing and accused student leaders of now siding with fascist forces for personal gain. He called on the interim government's head to take immediate action and address these pressing issues. All right, now take a look at what else is making news around the world. Congolese religious leaders are aiming to organize peace talks that would bring President Felix Tshisekedi's government, Rwanda-backed M23 rebels and exiled opposition figures around the same table. The church-led diplomacy is the latest push for a resolution of the violence in the Congo. Heavy snow hit Japan on Wednesday as a cold front brought more wintry weather to the country's central regions, with advisories issued warning of heavy snowfall within 24 hours in areas along the Sea of Japan coast. In parts of Japan, such as Niigata Prefecture, roads and buildings were blanketed by heavy snow. Putting paint to canvas and skills to the test, artists competed in a live painting competition in Australia's Sydney. The participants painted within 20 minutes and the audience voted to choose winners in the color-filled event. Still to come on DD India Newshour. An expert take on Trump's peace overtures to Putin and why it is a watershed moment in global politics. Officials from India visit the UAE for exploring collaborations in media and entertainment. And New Delhi hosts the inaugural Global Business and Impact Ecosystem Forum.
Timeless, boundless, and infinite. The essence of faith, the soul of Sanatan culture, from the sacred confluence of Prayag, where divinity descends to earth. Witness the grandeur, the devotion, the magic, world's largest cultural and spiritual gathering, with over 450 million devotees expected to attend. Mahakumbh, India's greatest festival of faith. Exclusively on DD India.
You're watching DD India Newshour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. A quick recap of the headlines. The Kremlin says a Putin-Trump summit is possible this month. Trump accuses Ukraine of starting the conflict. Zelensky says attempts to replace him will fail, adds that a majority of Ukrainians would not support concessions to Russia. And the BJP picks Rekha Gupta for Chief Minister of Delhi to be sworn in on Thursday. A high-level Indian delegation led by Information and Broadcasting Secretary Sanjay Jaju and Prasar Bharati CEO Gaurav Dwivedi visited the UAE this week to strengthen media ties ahead of the World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit in Mumbai. Meetings in the UAE focused on future collaborations in media, broadcasting and content production, marking a key step in bilateral relations.
In a bid to bolster media ties with the United Arab Emirates, a high-level Indian delegation led by Information and Broadcasting Secretary Sanjay Jaju and India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati CEO Gaurav Dwivedi visited the UAE this week. Strategically timed ahead of the inaugural World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit set to take place in Mumbai this May, the visit marks a significant step in strengthening bilateral media relations. In Dubai Media City, Secretary Jaju and his team met with Senior Vice President Majid Al-Suwaidi, who oversees both Dubai Studio City and Dubai Production City. The discussions revolved around potential synergies between India's rapidly growing media industry and Dubai's well-established entertainment ecosystem, with a focus on future collaborations. The delegation also engaged with Mehta Al-Suwaidi, CEO of Strategy and Media Policy at the UAE Media Council, along with Sumaya Al-Ali, Director of Partnerships and International Cooperation. The two sides explored regulatory frameworks and promising opportunities to strengthen bilateral cooperation in broadcasting and digital content production. The delegation also interacted with BPG Group, Emirates News Agency, and Abu Dhabi's Creative Media Authority. Besides, the delegation also toured the 2454 Film Studio in Abu Dhabi, where discussions centered on potential collaborations in film production and creative content development. India's growing engagement with the UAE highlights its strategic push to foster strong international partnerships ahead of the World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit 2025, with inputs from DV Vinod, Dubai, DD India.
All right, going back to our top story, we are tracking this hour, Trump's push for peace with Ukraine and what it means for the new world order. Joining us is Mr. Sanjay Panda. He is a former Indian ambassador to Turkey and High Commissioner to Seychelles. Ambassador Panda, welcome to DD India Newshour. Now, the world has been talking about ending the Ukraine-Russia conflict for the last 3 years and counting. Now, Trump is finally doing something about it. It should be welcome, but why are Ukraine and the EU so against it?
First of all, there is some visible progress now after 3 years. So that is something which is welcome. Everybody has been talking about this war to end because of many reasons, more so the humanitarian angle. And when Trump is delivering, there are a few people who are a little wary. They say it's a knee-jerk reaction. But I want to tell you that it's not a knee-jerk reaction, but a calibrated, well-calibrated move. But having said that, the way Europe and Zelensky is reacting for the basic reason that they feel that all stakeholders have to be taken on board. They feel that when there is a problem between X and Y, Z shouldn't decide negotiating separately with X. So that is the basic problem.
Right. Now, talking about Trump's push for peace, Ambassador Panda, the US appears to be willing to make concessions to Russia. For instance, the US says it is impractical for Ukraine to even hope to retrieve the land occupied by Russia. It has also indicated that Ukraine might not become a member of the NATO. But what concessions is Russia willing to make?
Well, the statements which are attributed to the US that, things are moving so rapidly now. In fact, you see the foreign policy priorities for the US has suddenly changed after Trump has taken over. And at this point in time, when there are statements which are attributed which says that, the war shouldn't have started, and now it is probably impractical to expect that 1/5 of the territory, Ukrainian territory held by Russia, whether it will be returned to Ukraine, I mean, that is unrealistic. These, I feel, are not quite, at this point in time, we cannot say that these are really correct statements which will head to the negotiations reaching its logical conclusion. But having said that, at this point, US is reaching out to Russia, and Russia is now willing to come to the table. That is very important. And when US is making some concessions for Russia, now if you see what Russia might concede to the US, Ukraine has several important, I'm just giving one of the instances.
Sure.
It has several important minerals and, rare earths, which have a need in the US, especially in the tech sector. So that is something which US also aspires to get from Ukraine, with Ukraine and from Russia, from the territory under its control. But these are all speculation at this stage. So we should not read more into it.
Fair enough. Ambassador Panda, there's a school of thought that says Biden pushed Putin into a tighter embrace with Xi Jinping. Trump wants to undo that. He has bigger fish to fry, as it were. He probably wants to pivot to the Indo-Pacific. Does the EU not realize that tying the US down in Europe gives China a free pass to further its agenda in the Indo-Pacific region?
Well, so far as Russia-China relations are concerned, that is something which has strengthened in the recent years with the kind of stance which President Biden had and the Europeans, or basically you can say the entire NATO stance is related to that. But at this stage, it is not, it will be not correct to say that the entire relationship will be reset.
Okay.
Will be reset after the US reaching out to Putin. So I feel that the relations will remain, but probably it will not progress the way and in the trajectory that it was in the recent months. But the status quo will continue. But yes, it's a fact that while there will not be a thaw or reset of relations, it will progress probably slowly. But saying that, about the Indo-Pacific strategy of the US will be equally interested in maintaining its position in Indo-Pacific, having open Indo-Pacific because considering the fact that 90% of the global trade in some way or the other crosses the Indo-Pacific in the vast stretch. So that is a primary interest of the United States. So that it's not going to, in any case, both have to move parallelly.
Okay, from an Indian perspective, Ambassador Panda, how would New Delhi be looking at Trump's push for a détente with Putin? I ask you this because a scholar from Sweden has written that, and if I can paraphrase what he has written here, he says global South countries such as India need to be wary of the US ignoring Ukraine in its quest for peace with Russia. He says tomorrow the US could do the same with other countries if they do not serve its interests.
Well, I take the views of the Swedish scholar with a pinch of salt. You see, if we, first of all, we cannot generalize. And the very fact that India, even while the Russia-Ukraine war was at its peak and when there were sanctions by the West, like Europe and the US announced sanctions against Russia, India had its own policy and it had its own position, which has been vindicated. We continued dealing with the United States and the West and Russia separately. It was our national interest which had held ground and which for us is paramount. Having said that, I would like to tell you that the very fact that I was very impressed seeing a photograph recently of at Aero India 2025 in Bangalore, where you had the F-35 and Su-57 in the same frame. And that really, sums up India's position to this Russia-Ukraine crisis. So India's position has always been that we should have a negotiated settlement, a diplomatic solution to this crisis. So when a particular move has been made in that direction, we in India should be watching it very carefully and just ensure that there is progress and the war has to end and all the stakeholders are taken on board to end the war. When Zelensky says that, look, I'm not there, now I feel that the discussions are now taking place to see how to get Ukraine on board. So now when, Sergei Lavrov and US Secretary of State Marco Rubio had this discussion with their national security advisors and foreign policy advisors, I think it is very important to understand how much importance is attached by both US and Russia in making some concrete progress and to get out of this impasse.
Indeed. And finally, Ambassador Panda, how do you see Saudi Arabia's role as a new power broker? It is set to host the Trump-Putin summit. It is also discussing Trump's Gaza plan with Arab leaders.
This is this is a major geostrategic move, I would call it. In fact, the other players who could have potentially played the role of a power broker, they had a little bit of interest, so there was a little bit of distrust from both sides. For example, having served in Turkey, I mean, I can say this, that there was a major interest in Turkey to play the role of a peacemaker between Russia and Ukraine. But at the same time, Turkey did also, that provided it's sold actually the various equipment, especially while the war was in progress to Ukraine, which did not go down very well in Russia. And the other potential, the Qataris have played host to many such negotiations. But then there is always a little bit of distrust, and Saudis fit the bill perfectly. And considering the fact that they are now also actively, and there is back channel diplomacy at work with Israel, and as well as in Hamas, and as well as with Hamas. So Saudis have a role to play,
right.
And this is just you can say that for the Americans, more so for the Americans, it is testing the waters.
Indeed. On that note, Ambassador Sanjay Panda, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts and views with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Right, moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision and mission of an inclusive and accessible India gained momentum at New Delhi's Global Impact and Business Forum, where stakeholders from across the world came together to ensure equality for all. DD India's Deepika gets you more.
Due to the lack of proper signages or no signages.
New Delhi became the epicenter of innovation and collaboration as it hosted the inaugural Global Business and Impact Ecosystem Forum on the 18th and 19th of February. Held at the prestigious Vishwa Yuvak Kendra, this landmark two-day event brought together a diverse array of leaders and organizations from India, Latin America, the UK and beyond. Taking Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of inclusive India and self-reliant India, the event focused on bringing various stakeholders together to ensure inclusivity beyond boundaries.
The main agenda is disability and inclusion. How through these inclusive approaches, various social enterprises and enterprises can conquer the world. Our mission is to make India inclusive capital of the world. As Honorable Prime Minister has given a clarion call to Atmanirbhar Bharat, and we strongly believe that unless until marginalized communities, including persons with disabilities, get into economic activities, Atmanirbhar Bharat is not possible. That's the reason why we all got together.
The event also witnessed the participation of corporates who are actively looking forward to ensure inclusive India at all the levels.
India is a huge country, and India has a civilization of almost like 5,000 years old. So it means everything started from here. Maybe with the time, it hasn't gone out. It's my role as an Indian, as a Bharatiya, to take out everything out of this country, so we can spread and make our country strong and bigger.
To promote equality for all, stakeholders from different parts of the world came together who spoke about their views on inclusive India.
Our role here as an enabler is to make these conversations happen and to get all these messages spread across the world.
Inclusive and accessible India is India's topmost priority, and the mission is gaining global momentum through the help of various such initiatives. With camera person SP Dubey, Deepika's report for DD India.
It's an auspicious day for the Mishing community in the northeastern Indian state of Assam. It's celebrating Ali Aye Ligang, a spring festival and one of its most important ones, which marks the start of the sowing season. DD India's Subina Roy reports.
Ali Aye Ligang festival, celebrated among the Mishing community, is deeply rooted in agricultural traditions, embodying the harmonious relationship between the Mishing people and nature. The name itself reflects its essence. Ali refers to legumes, Aye to seeds, and Ligang to sowing. Celebrated with grandeur and devotion, it is a time for paying homage to ancestral traditions preserved for generations.
Ali Aye Ligang is the most important, you can say, festival of our Mishing community, because the festival is totally dependent on agriculture, and it marks in the first, second Wednesday of the February month.
The celebrations begin with the ceremonial act of seed sowing. The head of the household, often the eldest member, leads this ritual by selecting a small piece of land where the first seeds of the season are sown. Offerings such as apong or rice beer Fish and rice wrapped in leaves are made to deities and ancestral spirits, seeking blessings for a prosperous harvest. This ritual reflects the community's respect for nature and dependence on a favorable agricultural cycle for sustenance. Music and dance form the heart of Ali Aye Ligang, with the Gumrag Soman dance being the highlight of the celebrations. This traditional dance is performed by young women and men in colorful attire.
The Gumrag dance actually reveals and represents all the agricultural activities in the entire dance form. So first, from the cutting down of trees by sowing seeds, how they cut down the paddy fields. So this is how everything, the agricultural activities are actually marked in the dance.
Feasting is an essential part of the festival, bringing families and neighbors together to enjoy traditional delicacies. The Missing people take pride in their culinary heritage, which includes purang apin, rice wrapped in leaves and boiled, various preparations of pork and fish, and the locally brewed rice beer poro apong. The act of sharing food during Ali Aye Ligang reinforces social bonds, emphasizing the importance of togetherness and hospitality in Missing culture. In a rapidly changing world, where traditional customs are often at risk of fading, Ali Aye Ligang continues to thrive as a proud celebration of Missing heritage.
The Missing community is the second largest tribal community that exists in Assam, and this community especially resides along the river banks, and this is a riverine community, and they especially do agriculture. And so Ali Aye Ligang is one of the most celebrated festivals of this community, which celebrates the sowing of seeds. We dedicate Dibrugarh team, Subina Roy, DT India.
And in sports, Indian men's cricket team journey in Champions Trophy has been impressive. With 2 titles and 4 finals in their kitty, the men in blue will be looking to add another feather in their cap in 2025.
Led by Rohit Sharma, Team India enters the competition as a top contender, boasting a well-balanced squad featuring stalwarts like Virat Kohli, Shubman Gill and Shreyas Iyer, along with a formidable all-round unit. Team India has enjoyed a rich history in Champions Trophy, winning the title twice and reaching 4 finals in 8 editions. India has an impressive history in the Champions Trophy, having won the tournament twice in 2002 and in 2013 under MS Dhoni's captaincy. In 2013, India was undefeated throughout the tournament. In the first 2 Champions Trophies, India performed well but got knocked out in the playoffs. Sourav Ganguly's team reached the final but fell short against New Zealand, losing by 4 wickets in the year 2000. The 2004 to 2009 period saw India go through a rough patch as they faced group stage exit in 3 consecutive Champions Trophies. India bounced back in 2013 and reached the final in 2017 but faced a crushing defeat against Pakistan in the final. Placed in Group A, India began their Champions Trophy campaign against Bangladesh on 20th February. They will go on to face arch rivals Pakistan in a much anticipated contest on 23rd February and play their final group stage match against New Zealand on March 2. India holds a strong record against Bangladesh in ICC tournaments and will look to continue their dominance. In terms of key battles, Rohit Sharma's battle against Mustafizur Rahman will be crucial as the left-arm pacer has troubled Indian batsmen in the past. Another matchup to watch will be Virat Kohli facing Taskin Ahmed's express pace. On the other side, India's young pacer Arshdeep Singh will look to make early inroads against Bangladesh's aggressive opener Liton Das. With high stakes and passionate fan bases, the return of Champions Trophy promises to be an exciting affair. Sports Desk, DD India.
In the latest ODI rankings released by ICC, India's Shubman Gill has taken over Pakistan's Babar Azam ahead of the 2025 Champions Trophy. Gill reclaimed the top spot after an excellent home campaign against England earlier this month. His tally of 259 runs in 3 innings with an average of 86.33 was the best by an Indian batter in the contest. This was the second time Gill claimed the top ranking in his career, previously during the ODI World Cup in 2023. Sri Lanka spinner Theekshana climbed to the top of the ICC men's ODI bowling rankings for the first time as he passed Afghanistan tweaker Rashid Khan. To football now, Real Madrid's Jude Bellingham was hit with a 2-match La Liga ban on Wednesday by the disciplinary committee of Spanish Football Federation after he was sent off for dissent. The England international was dismissed during the Champions' 1-1 draw at Osasuna on Saturday by the referee. Bellingham insisted that he had been expressing his frustration and not insulting the referee. Now he'll miss league matches against Girona and Real Betis on February 23rd and 2nd March respectively. The disciplinary committee said Madrid's attempts to show that Bellingham had not insulted the official were quote-unquote insufficient. Writer, actor and producer and comedian of Indian descent Mindy Kaling received the 2,800th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The actress expressed immense joy on receiving the star. Kaling was also nominated in the writing category at the Emmys for her writing and acting in NBC's The Office. That's all for this edition of DD India Newshour. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can get the latest news and updates on the DD India mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen now to download it. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. All of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Newshour.